When you are on the internet and consume information about horror films like me, you know about some films. Well, not exactly know, but you have heard of some films. Like Omen, The Hills Have Eyes, Cannibal Holocaust, etc. You hear about those films and you know that they exist and might be very good films, but generally you don't make a conscious effort to go and watch them unless someone or something triggers you. That might not be true for you, but that is certainly the case for me. There are countless films that I know of but haven't even considered watching them. But there are some days when some YouTube video or something just triggers me and makes me watch that certain film. One such day, or should I say period, was when I was working on my video on found footage films. For that video, I shortlisted some of the most influential found footage films about whom I wanted to talk. There were some films that I had already watched and was privy to, but there were a lot of those which I never watched or even knew about. And one of those films was Cannibal Holocaust. I had heard of Cannibal Holocaust and vaguely knew what it is famous for, but I never made any efforts to watch it. But during the writing and researching of my video about found footage films, I got to know that Cannibal Holocaust is considered by many the first found footage film ever made. For that video and for all my video and in life, I love to believe in the statements that I make. Hence, I couldn't just cook up my opinions about all those films for the video, so I watched them all. I watched The Connection, which is the actual first found footage movie ever made, and I watched Cannibal Holocaust. I remember that day very nicely. I was in my village. I had a lot of time, electricity connection, my laptop and Cannibal Holocaust in it with the intent and need to watch it. So naturally I watched it. I had heard of the gruesome scenes in the movie and of the murder charges on the director, so I vaguely had an image of the film in my head. I watched it and was blown away. That too in so many ways. My first reaction was, what the actual fuck is this? Second, I was very confused about what to do about this film. I had a paragraph about the film to write in my found footage script, and after watching it I had so many things to say about it that I wasn't sure how or where to express. I am sure now, by the way. Cannibal Holocaust is an Italian cannibal film released in 1980. Cannibal films are those films that, as the name suggests, has cannibals. Cannibals are those animals who consume their own species, and in the human context, cannibals are those humans who eats other humans. The trend of cannibal films was on its peak in the 70s and 80s, which was made prominent by Italian filmmakers. These cannibal films generally had many recurring themes and types of visuals. One of them is obviously that these films featured cannibals in them. Other recurring things in the cannibal films are extreme graphic content in terms of gore, blood, nudity, body horror, rape, cannibalism, torture, cruelty, and violence. Many films of this era had Western characters interacting with these featured cannibals. Those films are also cited as exploitation movies, which are infamous for being driven by the shock value of their visuals. And as you might have imagined, these movies caused havoc to many people's sense of morality and caused insecurity in societies on a huge level in countries like the UK. Man from the Deep River, Last Cannibal World, Eaten Alive, Zombie Holocaust, Cannibal Terror, Cannibal Ferox are a few examples of those cannibal films. And Cannibal Holocaust is unarguably the most famous of them all. Cannibal Holocaust is directed by Ruggero Deodato. The plot of Cannibal Holocaust follows an anthropologist named Dr. Harold Monroe. Dr. Monroe has taken a responsibility of a rescue mission which will take place in the Amazon rainforest. Dr. Monroe goes to the Amazon rainforest to rescue 4 documentary filmmakers who went to the jungle to make their documentary and never returned. Dr. Monroe, with the help of some soldiers stationed there, tries to find clues about where the film crew went. During this operation, they comes across a corpse wonderfully shown with really good practical effects. Dr. Monroe's guide, Chaco, recognized the corpse. It was of Felipe, who was the guide for the film crew. After that, Dr. Monroe gets in contact with a primitive tribe called Yakumo, which initially reacts with hostility but later becomes welcoming. There, Dr. Monroe discovers that those filmmakers did some really not so nice things with the people of this tribe. Dr. Monroe and his guides goes deeper in the jungle and befriends people of a tribe called Yanomamo and tries to find anything they could about the lost film crew. Dr. Monroe tries an experiment and strips himself to become more like the people in this primitive tribe Yanomamo. His experiment works and the women of the tribe leads him to the corpses of the said film crew. There he sees those corpses of those skilled ambitious, and young filmmakers. He feels sick by the sight of those corpses and, like anyone, wonders that what exactly happened in this jungle that caused this. What was their fault that costed them their lives? With those sickening and questions raising corpses were the answers in the form of those film cans that the crew must have shot. Now these film cans are the sole witness of the horrors that took place in this hellhole of a jungle. These film cans might be the answer to all those questions, but getting hands on them is a whole different problem in itself. The people of the Yanomamo tribe, due to their superstitions and their interesting primitive interpretation of those film cans, believed that these cans held powers of that film crew. Regardless, Dr. Monroe, who was determined to retrieve those answers, traded his tape recorder with the tribal people in exchange of the film cans. The Yanomamo people, who were oblivious to the modern technology, did the trade gratefully, and Dr. Monroe returned to the New York City. Upon his return, a public interest in the fate of the dead crew members and their incomplete documentary emerged. Even TV networks wanted Dr. Monroe to host the broadcast of that documentary. But upon analyzing the retrieved footage, Dr. Monroe discovered that Alan Yates, the director of the film, who is famous for his prior sensational work, which in fact was majorly staged, along with his crew, shot one person of Yakumo clan in the leg, shot their pig, burnt their houses, and forced Yakumo people to sit in those burning houses for their footage. Later, Alan the director and his girlfriend Faye both had passionate intercourse in front of Yakumo people after destroying their livelihood. Upon watching these bunch of inhumane acts committed by Alan and his crew, Dr. Monroe refuses to host the broadcast, stating that this is not only inhumane and offensive but also dishonest. He also opposes the broadcasting of such media which will glamorize their acts of violence and will portray the featured tribes and their truth unrealistically. The executives justifies Alan's behavior and says that this is the way he worked, and state in favor of the release of the documentary, stating that this documentary can be that sensational documentary in a long time. Dr. Monroe doesn't budge from his position and shows those executives the remaining parts of the footage. In that footage, all of them sees that after destroying homes of Yakumo people, the male crew members raped a woman from Yanomamo tribe. Later, the crew discovers the corpse of the same woman they violated, impaled by a pole. The crew members continue to film the gruesome encounter, and Alan Yates makes his meaningless statement for the documentary while controlling his devilish, evil, and disgusting smile. After this horrifying event, Alan and his crew gets killed as brutally as you can imagine by the tribal people. Watching all this gruesome, violent, offensive, inhumane, gory, bloody, and rapey found footage makes the executives very uncomfortable, and they agrees to not release this footage and orders the projectionist to burn all those films. At the end, Dr. Monroe leaves the audience and himself with a simple question: who are the real cannibals? After which he gets fused with the New York City, and the camera pans towards the left and the credits start rolling after showing us just a glimpse of the tall buildings of the New York City. The movie ends and leaves the audience thinking about a lot of things: sensationalism, cruelty, imperialism, white supremacy, civilizations, modernity, and a lot of things. Cannibal Holocaust beautifully remains a cannibal movie with all those provocative visuals and still shows the audience well thought out characters with powerful commentary on above mentioned phenomena. It is obvious that the film like Cannibal Holocaust, which contains such extreme visuals, caused moral panic, censorships, and bannings. Cannibal Holocaust is still banned in about 50 countries. During its release, it was heavily criticized for its graphic content. The film was heavily censored and was banned in about more than 70 countries. And at one point in Italy, all its copies were seized by the magistrate because they thought that the impalement shown in the movie is real and a real woman is killed for the camera. Director Ruggero Deodato had to show photographs of the actress after the shooting of the scene and had to tell that how this scene was done in the court. According to him, a bicycle seat was attached to the pole and the actress sat on it and held a wooden piece in her mouth which looked like a real impalement. A movie made in the 80s with provocative visuals, philosophy, and meaningful commentary. Does it sound too good to be true? Well, it is. Director Ruggero Deodato was inspired to tell this story by the coverage of Red Brigade's terrorism by the Italian media and believed that many gruesome events were staged by the media to create sensation out of that news. And for the cannibal movie part, Deodato wasn't a newbie. His Ultimo Mondo Cannibale is still considered one of the best cannibal movies, and it is the one that got him Cannibal Holocaust. I told you about the themes that the movie present commendable commentary on: sensationalism, imperialism, cruelty, white supremacy, and modernity. But the things that I didn't tell you overshadows all the movie's positives. There are a lot of scenes and sequences in between the plot which I haven't mentioned yet, and all the things that happened behind the scenes will show you a whole new perspective towards this film. In this movie, while Dr. Monroe and his guide Chaco looks for clues about where the film crew went, they witness a gruesome and barbaric act of violence. They see a tribal man punishing a woman for adultery by penetrating her using a wooden penis-like massive object. It causes the woman a lot of pain and bleeding. Then the tribal man shoves some mud and stones in the woman's genitalia and ends her punishment by killing her. The horrifying visuals and the epic music is not the highlight of the scene for me, but the stereotypical depiction of the tribal man is. The tribal man continually holds the tools by which he punishes the said woman in the air like they are some kind of sacred objects, and then discards them as they are not. This kind of stereotypical depiction of these tribes is sprinkled throughout the film. The film crew inside the film showed the tribes in a stereotypical fashion for their documentary, and same happens outside the film. The scene where Dr. Monroe strips himself and the women of the Yanomamo tribe bathes with him and plays with his genitals also doesn't make any sense. In a society where women are punished by death for being raped or for adultery, women bathing with a foreigner seems like a death wish. And you know what? This whole affair of those tribal people being cannibals is total bullshit, because scientifically cannibalism is not only dangerous for humans and causes many diseases, but mathematically it is not even feasible. Cannibalism as the last resort to avoid starvation is even frowned upon due to its side effects, and it being a way of living is just unrealistic. Other than that, as shown in the movie, Yanomamo people eats people from the Shamatari tribe. And FYI, a human being is actually not that nutritious. To feed the whole tribe with Shamataris will drive both the tribes to extinction very soon. One more thing that I didn't mention is the animal killings. There are many animal killings shown in the movie and all of them are real. Killing real snakes and such in cannibal movies of that time is normal. But when I was watching this movie in my village, nobody told me that. The first killing that stayed with me is the killing of the turtle by the film crew. Multiple animals were killed in the movie before and after it, but the way it's been shot and shown in the film just does something to you. And I knew the second I saw those animals that all of them are real. I don't know how I know it, but I just do. And also Wikipedia confirmed it, but I knew it already. Later in the scene where Alan and his crew makes the Yakumo people sit in the burning houses for their footage, the director of Cannibal Holocaust did the same to the indigenous actors playing Yakumo people. Later when the pig is killed, initially it was supposed to be killed by Alan's character, but the actor refused because he had made a really nice connection to the pig while they both traveled together to the jungle. And when the pig is killed by the other character, the pig squealing makes Alan's actor York so emotional that he fumbles in his monologue after the killing, which is in the film. Actor Perry Pekkanen got so upset after the turtle's butchering that he cried after the shoot. Remember I mentioned a passionate intercourse between the characters of Alan and Faye after the burning of the houses? Well, the director wanted the actors to have sex for real before the shooting for preparation, which was refused by York, the actor of Alan. And during the scene, Faye's actress Chiadi didn't want it to show her breasts, so the director took her off the set, yelled at her in Italian, and then she did the scene as he directed. And during the same scene, mental anxiety of Alan's actor York peaked and caused him so much mental problems that he broke up with his girlfriend after the filming was complete. Not only this, but Alan's actor York was paid less than decided. That too, not in American dollars but in Colombian currency. And the actors who played the role of the tribal people were left unpaid for their work. There were constant clashes between the director and Robert Kerman regarding the animal killings and a lot of things. All the crew members and the actors faced many difficulties during the shoot due to those killings. The actors had to to find that level of cruelty in them to do them scenes. Throughout the entirety of the shoot, one coyote was killed by a knife, one turtle's organs were taken out while it was alive, one tarantula was killed by a machete, one boa constrictor was chopped by a machete, a pig was shot, and 2 squirrel monkeys were decapitated because the first take of it wasn't good enough, so they did another. Remember I said something about sensationalism and how the director was inspired by sensational and likely staged media coverage and how the film commentates on this very thing very effectively? Well, Ruggero Deodato, the director of this film, signed a contract with the actors which forbade them to appear in any kind of media, movie, interview, commercial, TV show, etc. following the film's release. And what good did it do to the film, you ask? The film was a sensation. Everybody was talking about this film. There was nudity right on the posters which attracted a lot of people. The film was marketed as if all the found footage of the lost crew is real found footage. And you may say it might have just happened naturally. No. It was completely intentional to sign that very contract to sensationalize this film. And it is only after the murder charges when the director had to brought them actors to the court to avoid being charged by 6 murders. When I went into the film, I didn't know jack shit about it. And if I am in a space where nobody is keeping an eye on me that what am I watching, I can watch anything. Personally, nudity, blood, gore, violence, sex, things like these in film doesn't triggers me. Because throughout all the films I have ever watched, I haven't seen a lot of things visually which affect me. Things do affect me, by the way, I am a human being after all. But when my brain knows that whatever I am seeing is fake or scripted or staged, no matter how bloody some scenes may be, they just don't affect me that much. And if the visual effects, acting, context and scenes themselves are so good that my brain can't tell if it's real or not, then things can affect me. In this film, all the things that the characters of Alan Yates does affected me deeply. His actions not only made me hate him but also made me feel things. And all the real animal deaths really affected me. First of all, I didn't knew that there are going to be real animal killings in this film, and also watching them brutal and cruel scenes of unnecessary violence did things to me. And when I saw that punishment scene, I knew that this film has a very stereotypical depiction of tribal people. And when I finished watching and read about the behind the scenes, I debated with myself constantly and wanted to tell everybody that how this movie shows some people doing terrible things for their camera to sensationalize their work, and the director of this movie also did terrible things for his camera to sensationalize his work while commenting on sensationalism. When I was writing the introduction of this video, I was still debating about this hypocrisy. That is it hypocrisy? And if it is it that bad to be a hypocrite? Well, I got the answers to both the questions while writing the script. Yes, it is bad to be a hypocrite, because if you are a hypocrite, no matter what you say, it won't hold any value. And no, for the director, doing these terrible things is bad, but not exactly hypocrite. This was my conclusion. Tell me in the comments, what do you think? Cannibal Holocaust is undoubtedly one of the most controversial, famous and important piece of art. No matter how terrible things were done to make it, its messaging holds value. This movie has a grand-ish legacy, and kinda rightly so. While writing this script, I have grown to appreciate this movie more than I did before. And if you still haven't watched it, go watch it. You will find many things in this film that I haven't even mentioned in this video. Tell me your thoughts on the movie and everything surrounding it in the comment section. Thank you for watching.